Hey there, welcome to the Bronx Buzz. This is BronxNet's program where we talk to reporters and writers and journalists and editors, people who are putting stuff out that we need to know about. And you get to kind of hear directly from them to get the inside report. In our second segments, we do arts and culture. And today and tonight, we're going to be talking with some people on City Island who have had a wonderful, important music cafe that they are now converting to include theatrical performances. So that'll be interesting. But right now, our buddy David Brand is with us. He's a reporter covering housing for Gothamist and WNYC. David, it's always great to have you.
It's always great to be here. Thanks for having me back.
And I guess, unfortunately, having said that, unfortunately, you have a piece that talks about the median price of homes in the Bronx's Kingsbridge Heights and Bedford Park, saying that they are now have had the highest increase in prices in the city. And that would be a curious thing because one would think it's not the most lucrative neighborhood in the city. And I guess we'll start here. Number one, how'd you find out about it? And number two, why Kingsbridge and Fordham Heights to have the prices skyrocketing?
Every year, the Association for Neighborhood Housing and Development, ANHD, it's a group made up of affordable housing developers. They advocate for more affordable housing and tenant protections. They put out what they call their housing risk chart. And it's a lot of factors that foreshadow or show displacement, like rising evictions, rising violations in apartment buildings. And one of the things that they also highlight is rising home prices. Now, across the city, just like across the country, home prices are going up, but in certain Bronx neighborhoods, they're going up really exponentially and higher, faster than anywhere else in the city. And you said it right at the beginning, the two neighborhoods they really honed in on, Kingsbridge Heights and Bedford Park, where median home sale prices went up by 36% over the past 2 years. And that's higher than anywhere else in the city,
Incredible.
including like kind of notoriously gentrifying neighborhoods like Williamsburg in Brooklyn or Bedford Stuyvesant. So,
Right.
thinking Bedford
So
Park could be the
these
new
are
Bedford
homes.
Stuyvesant.
These are homes, private houses, as opposed to, let's say, if you wanted to get an apartment, right?
Yeah, it includes like single family homes, two family homes, three family homes, pretty much every type of home that's not a condo or a co-op.
So these are Bronx neighborhoods are also among the city's lowest income areas. And one would wonder why that's the case. And does that mean we're now open? I mean, you mentioned places that have gentrified. Does that mean we're now potentially opening new neighborhoods to this concept of local people being priced out?
I think that's the concern. I mean, I think it's
Mm,
definitely happening. You talk to people like young professionals who grew up in some of these neighborhoods, want to settle there permanently, want to buy property, and are having a tough time. I think we don't quite know the reasons right now. And I think this is going to lead to some more deeper reporting that I'd like to do. And so, any listeners who live in those areas who are experiencing this, especially if people trying to buy a home, please reach out to me. Because, the fear is that there's real estate speculation, home flipping, all cash buyers,
right.
investors who are competing with like families that just want to buy a place to live.
So the process, excuse me, the process that could lead to this is really, and I'm just speculating here, which is a funny word to use. The the process would be that somebody has a home, and then somebody makes them an offer, for more money than they have seen in their pocket in a long time, and 300,000, $400,000, and they buy it, and then all of a sudden maybe they do a fix up, and now they've sold it to somebody who's has more money. Those people move in, and all of a sudden the people in the local community don't have places to live. I mean, that's what we're talking about.
Yeah,
I'm thinking.
basically, and we've seen it a lot in northern Brooklyn. That's like what happened in East New York in particular,
Mhm.
which has a lot of kind of like low rise housing stock, somewhat different than those neighborhoods in the Bronx, but it has been common throughout the city. And so, is that
Mhm.
happening there? It could be, yeah.
I don't know how well you know the neighborhoods, but let's just say if you go right where the Kingsbridge Armory is, and you go south toward Fordham Road, there's neighborhoods filled with private homes there,
Mhm.
and I could see that very process taking place. What gets in the way of something like this that stops this from happening? Does it have to be legislation of some kind? Do I mean, it's the plain term is blockbusting, and that's been going on for generations. So, what if there are elected officials like Karina Sanchez, who's isn't she the chair of the housing
Mhm.
committee in the city council, and the council member from that district? What does she do? What can she do to prevent this? I mean, I don't know.
Yeah, I think I think it's pretty complicated, and so there are proposals at the state level right now for what they call a flip tax, which would prevent like institutional investors from buying a property and then reselling it within 6 months without paying an additional tax, or
Ah,
and that's so it's like kind of a graduated scale for
but
what that
that
tax would
would,
be. It's
yeah,
that's
that
kind of that's a little bit. I don't know. I don't think that has the momentum to pass yet. But I think other ways to like protect homeowners who are at risk of foreclosure or who have owe back taxes, back property taxes, and are
mhm.
thinking of just kind of selling for lower than the value of the property just because they have a lot of financial problems. So more attorneys, more resources for homeowners in those situations are probably the way to avoid kind of the fast sales that don't capture the true value
Right.
of the property, and then the reselling.
So we have something else that we can talk about. Is there anything else you want to say about this that I haven't asked you about? Because it's such an important thing. Because if it happens in one neighborhood, it could happen in another. I mean, it grows, and somehow the Bronx is always preyed upon in these circumstances. So, any last words about this?
Well, we're seeing the similar kind of exponential rise in prices in University Heights, Fordham,
Ah,
Belmont, East Tremont. So it's not just Kingsbridge Heights and Bedford Park, but kind of throughout the Bronx. And I think we're still kind of in the early stages of reporting here. So would love to hear from residents of those areas about what you're seeing, what you're experiencing.
and so we can put your email up on the screen, but it's, let's see if I know it by heart, dbrand@nypublicradio.org. And
Yes.
please reach out if you have questions, or if you have some knowledge, or you've been approached by maybe real estate or somebody else. I think it would be useful, and you've got a great reporter here who wants to work on it. The other thing I wanted to ask you about, which is in a way a much larger question, I was thinking about, so you think you need affordable housing, huh? Um, the governor wanted to put 800,000 homes out there, and that was essentially shot down in the last budget. But we have a migrant problem, and the mayor is at his wits' end.
Mm.
You were telling me beforehand that some of this actually started here in our home borough of the BX.
I think this issue of rising number of migrants coming to New York City in need of emergency shelter was first diagnosed in the Bronx because about a year ago, people who lived around the PATH intake shelter for families who needed to go into homeless shelters first started noticing a lot of people coming who were newly arrived immigrants, especially from Venezuela. And that was something over at City Limits when I was reporting there that we had first started hearing, and then became something that the Adams administration, Mayor Adams, realized, oh, this is something's going on here. We're seeing more newly arriving immigrants entering homeless shelters than we've seen before. And then, over the past year, we've seen this issue continue to grow, where we're at the point where they have tapped dozens of hotels. They've set up tent encampments. They've used a cruise terminal in Brooklyn to house people, and now they're thinking of using school gymnasiums or even an empty jail on Rikers Island to house people. So this has become a huge issue in New York
And
City.
and I feel for everybody involved. Obviously, for the migrants who are coming here with hope, and they've had tremendous sacrifices to get here. But I feel for the mayor. It's like, hey, Mr. Mayor, we're going to add 45,000 people, now 60,000 people, and it's not going to be any less. And we're just going to send them to you, and you got to figure it out. But I also feel that, I understand, okay, so we found a school gym we're going to house them in, but I understand what parents are saying. I understand the sympathy of people in other counties, like Rockland County has reacted very negatively to the notion of using hotels up there, and so, boy, I don't really know how to solve this. I mean, what are your thoughts about what could work? Because everybody and anybody says, look, we don't want to just go adding 500 people sleeping in our gymnasium where our
Yeah.
kids go to school. I get it.
It's a tough situation. New York City for centuries has been a city of immigrants and has absorbed huge numbers of people from all across the world. Like more than a third of the current population of the city is foreign born. So, there's not a surprise that people are coming to New York City. What's different here is that a lot of the people coming don't have existing community ties or family ties. So they need to temporarily use city services like homeless shelters more than probably they have in the past. Um, Tough spot for the city. It is a tough situation for the Adams administration to try to house so many new people.
Right.
And that's why he's been calling on the Biden administration and Congress to really give more support to the city and more money and more maybe logistical support as well.
So I have to agree with you that is the case. We mentioned this together before we went on the air, but getting the White House angry at you might not be the best way to make that happen either, which is, of course, apparently what's going on. The last thing I just want to mention, which is a matter of fact, that the whole idea that the city had taken homeless veterans out of hotels in Rockland County turned out to be phony. That didn't
It's a
happen.
hoax. Yeah, that's
It's a
unfortunate
hoax.
because the New York Post can do a splashy front page story
Yeah,
about
but it
this
wasn't
kind of,
true.
and then it turns out. So I don't know if finding out it wasn't true ends up having the same reach. So it's good you say it
We're
on your show, so everyone who's heard
we're
that can
just trying to
find out that
tell it
was
like it
fake.
is.
Yeah,
Listen, David Brand, we got nothing if we don't have you. And people
thanks,
reach
Jerry.
out to David. Thank you for your time this evening. And, we'll see you around again. I'm sure all these stories will keep getting bigger and we will
Definitely.
keep reaching out to say, hey, David, come on the show. We'll
Love to
see you
do it.
around town. Okay.
Thanks a lot,
We're
Jerry.
going to take a short break. And when we come back, as I said, we're going to visit on City Island with a wonderful, used to be a music hall. Now it's got something more going on. We'll be right back.